Because I was interested in sort of how much power you were able to transmit and all of that sort of thing. So, any ideas sort of around that? Or?
We're hoping it will be 1 kilometre around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Around the MAC.
Yes.
So that's most of Moona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also it will be online.
Yes.
Streaming.
Streaming.
Have we got a deal for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, fantastic.
Yeah. So it would be interesting even to maybe think about something happening here.
Well,
there.
yeah.
It would be fun to watch something
Definitely.
happening, in the youth. Through our phones or something. Would be
I
fun.
do like the idea of you get the passenger sort of to sit in the ute,
Yes.
and that becomes the studio.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's-
that's what will happen.
That's
Yeah.
sort of.
We're thinking of putting a swimming pool at the back.
Oh,
That's my
excellent.
obsession.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
When we say we, it's mainly Julia.
It's
Oh, okay,
me,
okay,
but
right.
I'm multiple personalities, so that
Right.
makes sense,
So you can then do an outside broadcast in the pool.
right? Sipping
Which
a
is
cocktail.
not dangerous at all.
No, it's not.
How that would go wrong.
Okay. Well, this is fantastic news.
Yeah.
This is really
Yeah.
Very
good.
excited.
But it's happening because we came here, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's pretty
I
cool.
think.
That's pretty cool. Well, we definitely will be involved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. We
Great.
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fabulous.
And
I
we
love it.
also have an open call for content, so anyone can send us their content.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
and provided that it's not offensive or
Mm.
whatever, we will broadcast it.
I'm sure we can
narrowcast it,
provide
really.
some content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and spread the call out also. We
Definitely.
The link.
Yeah, well, I only just jumped in now, but this sounds great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
A grant.
2 grants.
Two grants. Two.
Yeah.
Two. Two.
From the
Two.
Regional Arts
Yeah.
Australia and the Arts, the Australian
Regional.
Council for the
Yeah.
Arts.
So-
It'll be, I guess from our point of view, it'll be also interesting to understand the type of license, what
Well, and truly.
what you can do and how it comes about and that sort of thing, because it's just sort of something that
Yeah.
yeah is
We- We sort of like there are quite a few amateurs who are involved with community radio stations around Hobart, and in fact the person who was able to organise some of the equipment that's in the studio is actually runs quite a few. There's I think the last count was 11 community radio stations from a technical point of view. So he's a great resource. My wife's a presenter on Hobart FM, which is a community radio station, for the folk segment, because she's a harpist and a
wow.
piano and cello player. So we have a little bit to do with Hobart FM, a little bit, and it's Jim Parrish who is the contact and who looks after all these radio stations. I don't know how he sort of has time for his family, really, but he's retired, so time's different when you're retired.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that is fantastic news.
Yeah.
I look forward to see how this develops. Can I just the sort of the idea that you had at Castlemaine with the Commodore
Yes.
and getting all the kids involved, which I thought was fantastic. Did that was that the sort of the start of this? Is that
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
that was the beginning
Yeah, and actually we had the idea to do a community radio station at Moona, and then we decided to put the two ideas together.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's
Yeah.
more fun.
Yeah.
In the car.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we'd like to
Definitely.
do more things with the car, and in fact we're hoping that next year we'll be taking the car to Launceston and working with City Park Radio.
Cool.
So we were up there recently in September,
Okay.
working with City Park Radio to do some workshops in the
Okay.
lead as a creative development in the lead up to hopefully doing a bigger project next year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've already got the ute.
We've got the ute. We just bought it. Yeah.
It's all happening.
We're pretty excited.
Yeah.
It's
So
a-
what sort of ute is it? Just
it's a Ford Courier, and it's a dual cab, so we can put our kids in the back as well.
Okay.
Family friendly. Very
Okay.
important.
Okay. Hey, this is well and truly. And you probably missed. They're wanting to put a pool in the back of the ute,
Oh wow.
so we can have an outside broadcast from the pool.
Yeah. Just needs a little fridge in the corner.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the weather. Well, tomorrow the weather's 27.
Yeah.
So it's
Here
just.
we go. We can test it out.
Hey. Well, that is fantastic. That is
Thank
really
you.
really good.
Oh, we're just really excited to be back here as well. This is
Yeah.
our first meeting for a while.
Yeah, we've been away for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going
Okay.
to really commit to getting our amateur radio license as well this year. That's our.
Woohoo!
That's
This
our-
year?
Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
As I would say for me 2020, but yeah, it's good to be ambitious.
Okay.
We'll start this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can I just make sure I got these dates right? The 20th of November to the
21st of
twen-
November.
21st of November. Okay. Through to the 4th of December.
14th of December.
14th. Ooh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's
So it's
4
4
weeks.
weeks.
It's
Yes.
4 weeks. Okay.
4 days a week. Is it 4?
It's actually 3 days a
3
week.
days a week.
When I applied for the license.
Yeah.
3 days a week, weekly, in that
For
time.
4 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think originally we thought we would have this 24-hour-a-day radio station, but
But
we
we
had
have
to
to be
be
more practical and efficient.
Yeah.
And
24
also-
hours of content is a lot of content.
Yeah, and it's also a lot of cost.
Yeah.
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 In
So-
terms of the license. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
We
thought-
will also commission 9 artists
yeah,
for this
nine,
project.
9
Okay.
new radio artworks.
Okay.
by
Um,
women and gender diverse artists, men encouraged.
Okay.
Yeah, and people who are not so much heard usually.
Okay. Now, this is what you did in Castlemaine, isn't it? And you
Yes.
played them as you drove around?
Yes, I mean I was parked
Yeah.
in car park.
You were definitely, she was definitely parked the entire time.
Right, okay, I understand, yes. Right, yes, yeah.
Of course.
So it was a stationary installation.
Yeah,
Right.
I was just
Good.
doing blockies or cutting laps
between.
in between.
Oh, okay, in between the transmissions. Yeah, okay, okay. Right, right, that's good, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we hope to have more, more response by women artists actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Roll out.
okay.
We're also
But everyone, we not we don't want only women.
No, no,
we are open
no, no.
to everyone.
Yeah.
We just want to try to encourage maybe some person who are a bit quiet or shy. They can do something. with the
And any
radio.
particular format, or is it like,
No.
no?
No.
No?
So we're also doing workshops in the lead up. So we've just started doing workshops at MAC.
Okay.
But we're also going out to schools and doing workshops in
Okay.
the area. We're offering workshops to community groups, and
Okay.
there's different tiered involvement. So you can come along to a workshop, we can record some content and we'll produce it into a show.
Okay,
Or we can help a group to produce their own show, or someone can just send us something that they've already made,
Okay.
or it could be a live interview,
cool.
anything really. We've got a choir already booked in to perform
Wow,
live
okay,
in the lead up to the Glenorchy Carols.
okay, okay.
So that
Oh,
the
yes.
choir
Yes,
is,
yes, yes.
yeah, is coming along to perform live and do some interviews, which is really exciting.
Okay, okay.
How we're going to fit them in the ute, I don't know, but
on top, under,
in the pool.
in the pool.
Yes.
Work on that one.
On the roof rack.
Yeah. So yeah, we're really
Outside
open.
broadcasting. Outside broadcast probably corresponds to winding the window down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sticking
Get the mic
yeah.
out.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
got potential. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're really open to
Okay.
other people's ideas,
Okay.
and we're really open to helping people to produce their ideas as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they've got an idea, you help them facilitate that idea
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and get it into a recording and okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And we just yesterday we did 2 workshops with 2 different groups of kids for the school holidays.
Okay.
And we've recorded them. We got them, led them through a series of exercises that by the end of the day, they'd recorded their own radio show.
Wow.
So it
Okay.
was 2 hours we
Okay.
had with each group.
Yeah.
And we've done this quite a bit.
Okay.
And we've got quite a good, I guess, series of things that we do to get those people doing the content or that
And
they
their,
want.
their type of radio show, what's the content like? Is it, it's not like a play, or is it like music, or is it a story?
It varies
or
a
they
lot.
just talk about their everyday life?
Varies a lot. We've had kids doing fake ads, or
Okay.
yesterday there was a
Q&A.
group, yeah, there was a
Oh,
group
yes.
that did it was almost like a school project on cassowaries.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, like
and-
1 millimeter cassowaries.
Yeah. And another group who wanted to do their whole show about soccer, and they just talked about
Okay.
soccer.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So any kind of like youth interests. and
Yeah,
Yeah.
things
what
like that.
what they want to share.
Yeah.
And some of them are really funny, others are more serious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
you.
thank you for coming on in our guest spot,
It's very fun.
and welcome back.
Thank you for having
We're
us.
so glad
And,
to be back.
We'll do a little bit of promotion of this on our weekly broadcast, so people know it's happening and
Yes,
go
we
along.
will send you the.
Yeah, we'll
That,
email you
that
the
would be
information.
fantastic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Pip.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Good to see you.
And we'll get Paul in. We'll just do a bit of a promotion. This is VK7 OTC. Come in, Paul. VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our ATV Experimenters Night. And I welcome into the studio the award-winning Mr. Paul Pruss, VK7
I'm never coming on
FPCL.
again.
And I'll just point out that he is award-winning because he did take out the #1 foundation spot in the Remembrance Day
Hey.
contest a few weeks ago.
Woohoo! Very fun. It
Congratulations.
was very fun.
And I have had some excellent comments about your expose of being a first-time contester in the RD
You
contest.
put me on the spot for that. That
I
was
think-
knocked up in about 45 minutes.
Well, did very well. Did very well
Oh, well,
indeed.
thank you.
So the reason I've actually got Paul in here is we're going to do a little bit of an expose on the recent LCD license changes.
Which I was very pleased to discover.
Definitely. Which were actually put into legislation on the 21st of September by the Australian Communications and Media Authority, and just go through some of the differences. So because what was put out there was a whole lot of links to legislation, which if you're having trouble sleeping, it's probably a good read. But legislation's actually written in specific, quite very well structured ways, and there's a reason for that. So it was quite hard to actually decipher what what had actually changed. And I draw on Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH's explanation, because Roger always does a very good explanation of a very layman's term explanation. So just going through the changes that were actually put in place, one of the key ones was they have removed all restrictions on emission modes on every band. So what that means is there was originally a restriction put in place for particular types of modes could only use a certain amount of bandwidth. That's probably one of the key restrictions. And what that meant was, for single sideband, it was to be no more than 2.7 kilohertz in bandwidth. If it was a particular other type of mode, then it was this bandwidth. What they've done is removed the emission modes, so it doesn't matter what the emission mode is, what the bandwidth is, just so long as you don't go outside of that band.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter at all. So that's one of the key changes and that's all licenses, all bands. So The other restriction that's been removed was on the 220 metre band and the 630 metre band, which are only available to advanced licensees. But there was a bandwidth restriction also put on those bands of no more than 2.1 kilohertz mode in any sort of mode. That's been removed as well, which is quite good because there are quite a few people who are operating single sideband on 630 metres I know of, because I've actually listened to them, and it was a lot more than 2.1 kilohertz, I'll tell you. It was at least 2.7, if not probably up to 3 kilohertz. So that's been removed, which is really, really good. So all licensees are now able to use any transmission mode, including those not yet invented. Good on you, excellent point, Roger. Provided the transmission remains wholly within the band being used. So that's great. One of the key things that hasn't changed is we still have a 3-tier licensing structure, which is Foundation, Standard and Advanced. So there was one of those touted that they're trying to move to one license type. I think that jump is probably a bit too far at this point in time, so there's a bit more work to do around that. And the other thing that hasn't changed at this point in time, I'll just stress that, is power limits. So the 10 watts, the 100 watts for standard, the 10 watts for foundation, the 100 watts for standard, and the 400 watts for advanced is still in place. So that hasn't actually changed. However, in the foundation space, there has been quite a few restrictions that have been removed. So which is really, really good. Foundation operators can now build their own transmitters and transceivers. The restriction was always only on transmitters.
Yes.
It was never on receivers. It was only on transmission equipment. Because of course that's where you're actually generating RF and putting out RF. Foundation licensees can also operate their rig using computer-controlled and automatic modes. So the example that Roger gives here is Whisper. You can leave a rig connected to a computer running Whisper, and you don't have to worry about it. Before, you had to be in attendance. Actually, you couldn't run a computer mode as a foundation licensee at all. So and that includes the other restriction that's been lifted is, of course, digital modes. So all digital modes, because the emission modes have been removed for all. That actually means that foundation licensees can run any mode. And one of the key ones that seems to have got a bit of a go just recently on a few lists, on a few Facebook pages, is ATV. So a foundation licensee can run 10 watts ATV if they want to, because that's a mode that's available to them, and there's no restriction on mode anymore. So that's really good. There were some other changes around. Before I go on with that, they make a comment. Roger makes a comment here around the 7-character call sign issue. Some digital modes won't accept a 7-character call sign. Some areas have actually started to, and DMR is one of them. DMR has actually adjusted their standard so that you can put in 7 digits, and the other modes, the other WSJT modes and that sort of thing. I understand there's some development also going on in that space. So watch this space.
So WSJT.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So now,
I didn't know there was a call sign restriction.
No, and it's to do with the actual application more than anything.
Right.
Some applications have been written assuming that the maximum is a 6-character. So from that perspective, might have to wait until those sort of things become available. But there are some modes like DMR that have adjusted it so you can put in 7 characters.
But in essence, that was the same situation under DMR.
Oh,
They had
correct,
just written
correct.
it for a 6-character. Yeah.
Correct. They've just extended it, and
Right.
obviously they've got the ability to. That's a configuration parameter or whatever, and they can just extend it. So the other one, further still, as Roger puts it, Foundation operators can allow unlicensed buddies to use their station. One presumes while the licensee is present in the shack, which is that's a standard requirement anyway. So
You want to preserve your equipment.
or just make sure they're not turning the wick up, so you
Yes.
go up to that kilowatt.
Yes.
Might be a bit of a problem. The other changes that were brought in was around the eventual demise of the 3.6 gig band for us, for everybody. There are some restrictions around particular areas and zones within Australia. It's being removed sooner than other areas. So the LCD reflects that in places like, I think it's Adelaide and Brisbane, I think, from memory. That's only memory. But Adelaide and Brisbane, it actually disappears from sooner rather than later, and in fact that disappears quite soon. Whereas the other capital cities are progressively there's a rank of them disappearing in each of those capital cities. So
I think I read that there was some place in Western Australia where there was a blanket because they were trying to preserve the radio purity for a large radio array.
SKA,
Right.
yeah, square kilometre array,
That's right, yes.
in the middle of nowhere.
Well,
So that's all the changes in this block. So there are quite a number of changes which have been scheduled into the 5-year plan, spectrum plan, the 5-year work plan for the ACMA. So I'm hoping that includes things like power and a few of the other suggestions that the WIA put up. But anyway, watch this space because so to get a foundation
Yes.
license, an award-winning foundation licensee's opinion.
aside from the award winning, I was quite, I don't know, maybe dangerously keen to add my
Dangerously keen.
dangerous in the sense of putting myself out there,
Okay.
to add my ideas and reactions to this because I mean I'm a bit of a Boy Scout and so I like to run by the rules.
Okay.
And but one of the things that got me into amateur radio was a keen interest and a lifelong interest and rekindled in electronics. Now, it wasn't necessarily working up from Citizens Band or wanting to get onto UHF, VHF modes or anything like that. I had been interested in amateur radio for a long time. Matter of fact, I remember my mother, when I was 8 or so, having friends, because she worked at a place called Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
JPL?
Yeah,
Wow.
she worked at JPL, and she was friends with a gentleman by the name of Oldvig von Roos, who had a hand in developing the heat shields for the Apollo reentry
Wow.
vehicle. She was friends with his wife, but he gave me back, it would be 50 years ago now, my first introduction to amateur radio. He had a rig in his office, so it's always been ticking back there. But electronics have been the thing that I was interested in, and because of this, the ability to build kits didn't really stop me with the foundation restrictions, because I built a monoband MT40. I've in the process of putting together a what am I doing? A micro-BitX.
Okay.
And the winter has slowed that down a lot, and being captured by RD, and
winning.
and a few other things.
Oh, sorry.
And as I'm finding out, the amateur radio operator affliction is having more projects than time.
The round to it list.
Perhaps in a lifetime to complete. But I was really pleased with the restriction to build. I built these things. I knew that I would either upgrade my license to a standard license and be able to use them, or as had been presaged by yourself when I first came to the club, changes are afoot. And that's really very pleasing to know now that I've got this equipment that I built, and I can continue and use it in a QRP fashion, and that doesn't bother me. As far as the power goes, I guess it was a little disappointing, but on the other hand, I can see I have this 50-50 perspective on it, where I reckon that if I had been given the extra 30 watts, I probably would have sat on an F call and not really seen any large need. Now,
Good perspective, Paul.
I know people that have been, as I've met in this club here, that have been that are, quite involved and done a lot of radio and involved in the club, involved in Reese, involved in amateur radio in Tasmania, and are still F calls.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being
Certainly
an F call.
not.
There's nothing wrong with driving a Mini. There's nothing wrong with driving a Ford. It's what you're interested in, and that's the thing about radio. As they say, it's a broad church, and it has lots of room for lots of different interests. But it does now, in my mind, give me an incentive to get that extra 30 watts, so I can see the other side of that, and I can see why that might have been kept in. Because you do want people to aspire to things, to learn and to advance in the field. Although I do think, as I was saying earlier in the club to one of the club members tonight, is that if you're going to be inspired and interested enough to build your own equipment, yes, you can just be a parts bunny. Parts monkey, and just slot them in the holes, solder them up, and hope they work. But there will come a point in your electronics journey where you don't know how something works. Something blows up. Something isn't right. And yes, you can follow the instructions, but if you're interested enough in electronics to do more than just assemble a plastic airplane kit, you're going to discover, and you're going to learn, and you're going to read, and you're going to ask questions in your club, and I think that type of individual would probably avoid the fear that the regulators might have had of people transmitting too high, hurting themselves. And as it was also mentioned to me earlier today, we're talking solid state electronics these days.
Correct.
You're not you're not really pushing.
So the zaps aren't there, but the power could be.
Yes. And I mean, and if you just treat everything with respect. I remember when I had my electronic training in the U.S. Navy, I was always told your back left pocket isn't for your hanky. And I told somebody, you hear that? And they looked at me funny, and I said, that's because your left hand is always in your back left pocket, and you're only touching live circuitry with your right hand. I guess that kind of shows my age a little bit, because I don't know if
valve equipment.
not just valve equipment, but high voltages running things like synchros, gyroscopes. I used to work in an engine rewind. Okay. So I was a fire control technician, which is the synchros and servos that worked out the fire control problem for the guns. Okay. But still, you're dealing with high voltages. It doesn't necessarily have to be tubes. So one of the things that I was really pleased about was digital modes. Yeah. I've read and heard a lot about FT8, PSK, all those, slow scan TV. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was first here, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he brought some printouts and said, I've been mucking around with slow scan. And I said, oh yeah, that's nice. and so the first thing I did was think, well, how can I get onto my digital modes? And then I started reading around. Well, I need an interface between my computer and my radio, and I knew about the Signal Link and Rig Blasta and all those, and the Australian dollar isn't treating us too well now. Correct. If you want to go and buy a Signal Link at $125 and $45 shipping, when you're putting on another $45 per 100.
Correct.
So I started scanning around on YouTube
Yep.
and things to look for, signal link alternative. You just start.
Yep.
And I discovered a fellow by the name of Kevin Laughlin, and I forget his call sign in the U.S.
Okay.
And he's a ham that runs a YouTube channel out of his
Shack.
No, his motorhome.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
okay. Portable.
he sold his house. I guess he had some life changes, and he sold his house and went in that. And he now, I guess the gray nomad thing in the U.S. isn't just a retirement thing like it is in Australia. It's I can't afford a home, or my job life situation has
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
Although there still is the gray nomad aspect,
yeah.
but it's a huge industry of people, going to the desert for the winters and then touring the
yeah.
U.S. for the summers.
Okay.
They have a thing called the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous in the desert of California every year. So he put together a thing that he calls the Duino, D-U-I-N-O Vox, Duino Vox.
Okay.
And he uses a USB to audio USB adapter.
Yep. Yeah.
And some potentiometers to modify your transmit drive and your delay and sensitivity.
Okay.
And takes the signals from your radio, and I have an FT891, so there's a nice DIN port data out on the back.
Yep.
And takes those in and out, and then uses. He has written some code that's for free
Yep.
that you can just copy and paste into a Arduino Nano, and uses that to manage the press to talk.
Yeah. Okay.
And
okay.
and that's a little project that I brought in tonight to put together on a breadboard, and
we can.
one of the other club members got a hold of that and has already upgraded it on steroids by. Now, excuse my diagram here. This was only for me personally, and it's just now been.
It's now going live.
Now going live. I hope I didn't run any curse words on the page.
No. So we've got the USB dongle,
Yes.
the audio USB dongle, and the mic in and the TX out.
Yes.
We've got that going through coupling capacitor into a transistor
NPN.
switch.
Yep. Well, basically a small amplifier.
Small amplifier. You're right, because the bias is both sides. You're right. There's not a switch. Into is that an audio input to the?
Well, basically what he said there is the diode and the is there for reverse protection, obviously.
Yep.
The cap is to clean up the signal.
Yep.
And that resistor there is about a meg.
Oh, okay.
So that's to discharge the cap.
Yep.
Because we're going into the input of the Nano.
Okay. And this is a analog input.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would take, as you notice, that's coming from your left or your right hand audio.
Yep.
So it's using one audio to the radio, obviously.
Yep.
But the other one to monitor your transmit.
Yep.
So
it detects whether there's a signal there or not. So this is the Vox side of it.
Yes, that's right. Now I'm not. This will be my first venture into Arduino.
Okay.
So I don't exactly know all of what he does in the code there. I have read it, but I have yet digested it yet.
Okay.
There's a better picture over there on the right. So there's delay and sensitivity.
Yep. So these are analog inputs that he just takes a 5-volt 0 and in, and then reads the pot. And the sensitivity is the same, so these will be analog inputs.
So what he showed on his video is that the delay was quite useful, for example, in CQ.
Okay.
Or sorry, in CW.
CW.
That the switch would chatter. The PTT would chatter.
Yep.
And when he adjusted the sensitivity, you got it wasn't chattering. It was a constant PTT.
Yeah.
With the variation in the signal going out.
Bit of debounce.
Yes.
Adding
exactly,
a bit of debounce onto the key. The key. So well and truly. And then the sensitivity, I assume that's sensitivity to what's coming in here.
Yes.
I'd say. And then what you've got is a digital output through a switch, which is grounding to, if your push to talk is a ground push to talk.
Push to talk is then back through
into
to
the
your radio.
transmitter. Yeah. So quite simple. I like that.
Yes.
I do like that.
So I had an Arduino, a standard Arduino Uno.
Yes.
That's what I was going to play around with.
Okay.
But I decided to order, because the thing is that I was like, what can I do to put this together as cheaply as possible? So I had an audio card in my Shax PC.
Yep.
Although I did find at work some discarded Dragon Naturally Speaking
Oh, okay. USB
to
dongles.
audios.
Yep.
So I thought I might play around with that because who knows, I might want to use it on a laptop.
Yep.
So basically he takes them apart, and as you saw on the USB, he uses the 5-volt rail off of the USB.
Yep.
So if I were to use a Nano or any other kind of Arduino, I'd have to have an external power source of some description.
Yeah.
But it was quite clever of him to use.
Or you can run the Nano off the USB on the Nano, and there's because you're then taking the USB 5 volts in the same way as you're doing here.
Sure. My problem was that I was out of USB ports.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But I
No.
get a hub or something, a powered hub or something.
Well and truly.
Yes.
So many ways of doing it.
So I'm quite excited about this.
Cool.
I mean, and it's all once again a huge learning curve, because then you're learning all those modes as well.
I love it.
And one thing that I found, I mean, I get out there and how far can your rig go?
Yep.
And there's Whisper for you.
Yep.
Right there, or reverse beacon.
Yep.
And
so there's your propagation tool.
Yeah, so reverse beacon I don't think was even accessible to a foundation.
Well, it certainly from a receiving point of view, well and truly.
Yeah, but that doesn't do you any.
Correct.
Yeah.
So your transmission, and the same
So I
with
could see how well
Whisper.
everyone else was doing.
Correct. But it also like for Whisper, you don't actually have to be transmitting on Whisper, so long as there's someone nearby who is actually transmitting on Whisper. You can actually get a feel for what the propagation's doing.
Oh, okay.
Locally, that's a bit harder, but you can receive, and I've seen quite a few foundation licensees pop up on the receiving side of Whisper, which is they can do that.
Okay.
That's
I
fine.
didn't realize it was.
But they can't transmit. That's the thing about it. And on Whisper, it tells you who is a receive-only station and who's a transmission station.
Right.
Because the transmission side of it tells you the frequency they're transmitting on. So yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen a lot of people get very upset that there's foundation licensees appearing in their Whisper log, when in fact they're only receive-only stations. That's fine. That was not an issue at all.
Well, my one really big interest in the beginning with digital modes is that, before I broke the drought, if you like, was that I didn't have to talk. I could I could make these contacts in other parts of the world, and come to think of it, I wonder if that might be a little bit of a
incentive.
Not so much incentive, but like if I had access to digital modes where what is it, FT8? What's the next one from the FT8? Is it FT8X or FT8 something, where you can actually carry on more than a one or two?
Yeah. Not JS8.
JS8, sorry.
Yeah.
So JS8, where you can actually, transmit
It's
text.
a keyboard to keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is or what it was with me when it came to it was putting yourself out there and reading a lot of probably negative things about, oh, well, you're just going to get slapped down if you don't do the right thing, etc. And no, that doesn't, that isn't the case. And I can say to any foundation licensee out there, get yourself into a contest,
Yep.
and get your club members to help you out. I read a really interesting post by someone saying, there's, he asked a question in an online forum and said, does anybody know such and such and thus and so? And I replied back, try this. And he says, yeah, the guys in my club don't really want to, they're all into their things. They're not really there for the foundation members, etc. And I think that's a real shame.
That's a real shame.
And I told him, I said, get your guys together on a Saturday, go in there and you guys talk about things. Get on to YouTube. There's heaps and heaps of things.
And we've got a few YouTube videos along those lines.
Okay. So
yeah.
Thank you for at least allowing me to say that come here and just say that I think that the changes are fantastic, and I think that it's a bit of a seesaw, but when it comes to the power, but I do see at some point. It's not totally out of my mind. A standard license in my in my future.
Yeah. Cool. That's fantastic, Paul.
Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you very much for coming in and giving us a bit of a foundation perspective on these changes. And good luck with the interface.
Yes.
Look forward to.
I'm sure Murray will have the full robotic effect model going before he's already miniaturized.
Well, we'll maybe next week we get you back in and find out whether you've just not putting the pressure on or anything.
No, of course, and you've never done that.
No.
Oh, and I look forward to hearing your partner on air now too.
My partner.
Yes, because she doesn't need a license now.
Oh, true. That's right.
Yes.
Well, she's in Alice right now. She was telling me that it was a little bit warm at 38 degrees. Or was it 32? Either way, she's in.
Either.
She's in Yollara. So yes, that's right. She wanted to do some parks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lovely.
See, well,
That's fantastic. That's good.
Now she can sit at the microphone.
That's right. Well, she doesn't have any incentive to get a license. No. I'll still try. Still try. Thank you very much, Justin.
No problems, Paul. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And we'll do. This is VK7 OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our ATV Experimenters Night. And we'll just bring this up and around and over and under. I'll just whiz around and grab the next bit of our segment.
That's the box. Yeah.
That's the box. Oh, thank you very much. You can come in here if you like, Warren.
Oh, I've got a good view from here, except I can't see what's on the screen.
Yeah, no, we do need a audience cam, don't we? Now, one of the things I was going to show you tonight, I've got so much crap in here. We last week. Last week. We'll get to last week. The week before that, we had a wonderful donation to the ATV studio, which we will be putting into practice tonight after we go to our videos. What we had donated from one Mr. Anders Marchant was a brand new, or almost brand new, WJ-MX20 Panasonic digital video mixer, which was donated to the studio. This mixer is it's the equivalent plus of what we're actually using, but this is a probably what you'd class as a bit of a semi-professional mixer, digital video mixer. Has quite a few additional effects available to us, as well as it has a sequencer built into it, which is this bit here, which enables you to put in a whole lot of modes that you set up into scenes, and so you can just go from one scene to another by basically going, I want scene 1, I want scene 2, I want scene 3, etc., etc. So that's certainly something that we don't have available to us in the studio right at the moment. It still has the 4 inputs, and you're able to mix from the 4 inputs with effects, with background colours. There's a whole lot of still effects. You've got chroma key and you've got luma key in here as well, which we don't have with this. We've only got chroma key with the current one. So that's another ability. The other thing that you can do here is some colour correction, which we can't do on here without doing it manually through the VDAs. So this will be pressed into service in the very near future once I get off the off air.
Just to refresh my memory, Luma key.
Luma key, okay. Chroma is colour. So this is what we use the screen behind here. We can key it to this colour, so we can produce something behind us, a la the weather map. And we had a great demonstration of that at the ABC last week, which I'll show you in a sec. Luma key is luminance, so it's the brightness. So you can actually key it to the brightness of an image. So where you've got, it's very good for doing where you've got high contrast, so a difference between light and dark. You can actually key it to the light or the dark part of the image. So it just gives you a different sort of effect. But we can't do Luma key on the current one, but we can do it here, and we can also do chroma key. So we'll set that up and do a bit of playing when we go off air. So a huge thank you to Anders, who donated that to the studio. So thank you very much, Anders. The other thing, now can I get you to go out? There's a Jubus magazine, little Jubus magazine out there. Can you go and grab that for me, please? So a couple of weeks ago, I did a bit of a thing on old laptop batteries, old laptop batteries that we'll just head to here. Now, the old laptop batteries, I actually had an old laptop battery that I hadn't taken apart. What I've done since then is I've actually taken 2 old laptop batteries apart and grabbed the cells out of them. I've left the little spot welded tabs on them so that I can actually solder to them. And I've gone through and there's a wonderful chargers that are available on the market these days. Sorry, I'm going backwards and forwards here. Nightcore chargers. These particular chargers do nickel metal hydride, they do NiCads, they do lipos, they do lithium ion, and they literally do, if I show you the actual battery holder, they will do a huge number of IMR, lithium ion and LiFePO batteries and LiPo batteries. They have the ability to put a range of size cells in here, and you've got the ability to set the charge rates. You can check the voltage, you can check the current and the voltage, other way around, and you can do 4 at a time. And so I went through, and one of the key things with these is it actually checks the cell on the way through. It is an intelligent charger. So if the cell is faulty and it can't actually put a charge into it, it comes up and starts flashing red up here, and it just stops charging. So there's a bit of safety in there as well, because you don't want it constantly trying to push charge into it when the cell's actually faulty, because with lipos and lithium ions, you can actually do some fairly substantial damage. But anyway, it fits all sorts of cells. The ones I've got here are 18650 cells, which I managed to get a whole bag of these little holders, these little 18650 holders. That have the wire. They're a single cell. They have a hole that you can then screw them down to a board and put them in different configurations and whatever else. So this just means I don't actually have to solder them. I can put them in the holder, and you've got a 3.7 volt for 14 or 1800 milliamp hour or 1.8 amp hour cells, and you can put them into the different configurations that you actually want to play with. So that's progressing. The battery project is progressing, and I just dropped it, so I'll kick it over there and get Warren to.
So does the charger, once the charger has worked out what type of cell you've put in?
Yep, which it does automatically.
Yep. Does it display that then? on
Yes,
the screen?
yeah. It actually displays it. The little scale that's on here. The LEDs that come up, dependent on whether it's charging, but initially it goes through. It discovers what sort of cell it is, and I assume that's because of the voltage. There's a 3.7 volt, a 4.2, or a 4.35 volt cell, and then when it goes into a charge mode, the LEDs become 30, 80, 100, or 1.5 amps. So this is, you have the ability to actually charge it with up to a 1.5 amp charge, which the cells are capable of. So it gives you the little LEDs for each of these cells on the actual screen. So the little screen that's on here. The nice thing about this is it's not only mains, so it's 240 volts, but you can also put 12 volts into it.
Oh yeah.
So you can actually do this charging with an adapter to the car or whatever. So quite a nice little unit. About $45. That's about it. I have no doubt. I bought it online and free shipping, but free shipping actually from Australia. So it wasn't actually
That sounds
from.
good. I mean, you can mix
from
cells
China.
too, can you?
You can mix cells, yeah, and it fine. Oh, actually, there you can see. Just let me go here. You can see. This is where the cells are fully charged. All of the LEDs are lit, and in this case, it's actually using the higher charge rate at the top, which is the red.
Yeah, and we've got
So,
very different cells in
yeah.
here too.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
Excellent.
the battery project is progressing, and I'm putting them together into particular combinations so that I can use the use those recycled cells. Now, the other thing I just wanted to go through is there's a number of us who have ordered the latest copy of Jubis magazine, which is the microwave and above magazine that comes out of Germany, that quite a few of us subscribe to. The latest copy of Jubis for the third quarter of 2019 has a article. In fact, most of the articles in this magazine are from Australians. So this is Warren, this might interest you. This is actually a dual language magazine.
German and English.
German, and everything's in German and English. So the article by VK3CV is on a 122 gigahertz transceiver. Now, the little transceiver, the heart of this particular transceiver, and this is the printed circuit board he's come up with, that little chip right there is a 124 gigahertz, I think, radar unit in a chip. So it actually contains basically a transceiver with a 122 gigahertz transmit antenna and a 122 gigahertz receiving antenna, which is separated, all in the chip.
In the chip.
In the chip. And so basically you have an IF out, you've got some control signals, you've got power, and it's all in that particular little chip. So what Andrew's done is put a little bit of control around here. You can see there's a controller and a little bit of frequency control, etc. You can GPS lock this, which I think is essential for this sort of frequency. And the horns that he's come up with, and I'll just zoom out here. Tim VK2XAX is actually... Oh, and one of the articles, the very first article in here is Differential GPS Azimuth Reference for Microwave Portable Operations by David Smith and our Rex Moncur, which we've seen on these nights. There's the German version of it. Now, here we go. This is Andrew Anderson, VK3CV. Now, here is his 122 gig using a OSTAR offset feed dish. So yeah, it's and it's the 2.4 millimeter band. The little radar chip, the Silicon Radar TRA 120 series radar transceiver, is a device containing a complete 118 to 126 gigahertz transceiver with separate integrated antennas for TX and RX.
Integrated antennas.
So it's all built in.
So in a radar type configuration, that would have to then be at the focal point of a horn.
Of a horn or well and truly. And in fact, that's what he does. You notice the 4 holes that were around that in the PCB.
Yeah, okay.
That's how you mount the horn on the front of it.
Yeah.
And what he's done and what Tim has offered to do, and you can see here, this is the horn boring. So this is boring a test horn, which is one of these. And there's a couple here that he's produced, which are what they call chaparral horns with the little rings, the multi-choke ring. These are choke rings. Those particular are for illuminating a offset feed dish. You can see over here, and he's got it all mounted in a little die-cast box here with the chaparral horn on it that is pointed at the dish and illuminates the dish. So Tim VK2XAX has taken the bull by the horns and is organising to get these kits together. And we've ordered, I know of at least 5 that have been ordered from VK7. So 122 gigs, here we come. And here's Andrew operating his 122 gig rig and set up an IF transceiver across Port Phillip Bay. So there you go. So I just wanted to signal we've certainly put in our orders for these particular devices. So looking forward to them making their way here, and highly recommend this magazine if you're into microwave experimentation. So I might leave that for next week actually. Just a bit of a reminder, on the 16th of October, so not next week but the week after, we have a behind the scenes tour of the Lion Milk and Drink Factory at Lena Valley. So organised, and a huge thank you to Dale Barnes, VK7DG, for helping us organise that. It is a highly process automation factory, and an absolutely fascinating to watch and see how that automation actually works. And we're privileged to have Dale showing us through, because Dale is actually the engineer who looks after all this process automation. And you get a view. You won't look at a carton of milk the same way again. I'll just say that. So that happens on the 16th of October from 7:30 at the Lena Valley Milk Factory. So yeah, and again a huge thank you to Dale for organising that with management. So look forward to seeing everybody there. Our videos for tonight will be there is 10 gig EME with Richard VK7ZBX and Hayden VK7HH, who went up to Richard's place and they did a EME contact with Merrick, and I have to congratulate Richard and Hayden, because that particular video got a go on Hackaday today. was actually featured on Hackaday. So the very famous and very popular website Hackaday. So it's getting huge amounts of airplay. We've got that as the first video that we're playing. The second video is a bit of tongue-in-cheek because I found this video and it's entitled "How to Pick Up Chicks with Ham Radio."
Oh, cool! Yes, can't wait for that.
So it's a radio ham talking about the nerd factor and how that can be used. I've got a bit of a historic video after that, which is it is actually Endeavour, Space Shuttle Endeavour, which was on STS-127, so Expedition 127, and it's a full landing of STS-127. And for those who don't know, the space shuttle landing is a very special thing because when the space shuttle comes into land, they have a whole lot of things that they have to actually check, and there is no plan B. They have to land.
They can't do a touch and go.
They can't do a touch and go. They can't. They have to just get this right. And so there's a whole lot of systems in place to basically get this right. So and this is from. They can only just see it in the sky all the way into stopping on the runway. So just a fascinating when you realise that they don't actually have a plan B here. That's a pretty special thing to actually land a space shuttle. The fourth video is there was a video doing the rounds just in the last couple of weeks around a radio controlled model of the Concorde. Now this model is, I think, probably about 3 or 4 meters long. That's how big it is. So this is in a German radio controlled air show, because the commentary that you hear in the background is in German. But this model is just phenomenal, so it shows it flying and taking off. And the last one I think we're going to get to, because I suspect we're going to run out of time. There is a documentary on the SR-71 Blackbird that I came across that has I think a special place in a lot of people's hearts, and especially since I read the book from that Warren let me know about, called Skunk Works, which is all about where they were actually made and the factory that they came out of. Fascinating video. So I think we're probably going to get to that. We're not going to get to the last video. We'll save that up for next week. So that's our show for tonight. I don't know whether you've got anything else to say. Anything else to add?
I just wanted to ask. I was just curious if there were any recent updates or further developments on your spot welding project.
Yes, there is. I am currently waiting on some professional spot welding tips.
Okay, right.
Now you can buy these tips that actually screw into spot welding jaws.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually waiting for these to arrive. They're on their way to me right at the moment from New South Wales, because the tips that I spun up on the lathe are brass. They're very soft, and I'm fascinated to see what these tips actually are made of in a professional arrangement. But these are literally screw-in tips. So if they blunt or they wear out or whatever, you basically unscrew them and screw in another lot. So I'm waiting for them to occur. What I will do is I will turn out the brass ones that I've got to put these tips on, so that because with the ones that I've made, they have all of the arrangement for the wire and the termination and all of that sort of stuff. So I'll still use those, but I'm waiting for those tips to arrive, and then I'll hopefully have a bit of an update on the spot welder.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
So
yeah, no, I'll be keen to follow that. Not only because I also have saucepans that need spot welding.
okay.
But I think for a variety of applications,
Definitely.
I'm getting sort of a bit of an appetite to try and build one of these as well.
Fantastic.
So
Good stuff.
anything I can learn from you would be very appreciated.
Oh, well, you're probably learning what not to do right at the moment. But anyway, that's another story. It's
Yeah,
definitely a
well,
learning experience,
sounds good.
which is exactly what Paul was talking about.
Yep.
It's all about learning. Yes, you can put kits together, but if you've got a problem with that kit, then you have to troubleshoot it and work out how it works in a bit more detail. So that's what I think amateur radio and experimentation's all about. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get underway with our videos tonight. So thank you for. I'll take a quick listen on the repeater, so I'll just I'll put out a call for anyone who wants to come back on the repeater, and we'll get on with our videos. No? Okay, we'll get on with our videos. Hang on. What am I doing? Going there. Going there.